Hello and welcome to July, summer 2020. This is the Matrix second quarter review. It has certainly been an interesting first half of 2020. And if I were a betting person, which I am, I would be willing to bet that at the beginning of the year on January 1st, you were thinking this entire year was going to be about Trump and the re-election. Well, I guess in maybe some ways it's about Trump, but the pandemic certainly has changed a lot of the ways we're working and how things are progressing as this year has moved forward. So what was looking to be a banner year for advertising, because of course every 4 years we have the presidential election, will still probably be okay, but not what we were anticipating. I think as everybody knows, and as we can see through our client data, April was a pretty bad month for advertising. Now, when we spoke with people, a lot of people were saying that they didn't have as many outright cancellations, but it was a lot of pushing advertisements further out in the year. And May was a better month than April, and June's been a better month than May. What I found most interesting is when we were going through our data is we could correlate performance to how we believe different organizations manage their sales teams and their sales organizations. And what do I mean by that? If I was going to do some broad generalizations, which I'm going to do right now, is I would bucket management styles into 3 buckets. Bucket 1 is a very hierarchical structure, top down, we rule the roost. Bucket 2 would be a top down structure, but still allowing some freedom, maybe a softer hand in how they're managing their sales organizations, but there's still expectations on here's how we're going to do our business, here's how we'll perform. And then the third bucket would be those organizations where really they view every salesperson, every manager as their own entity. They may frame it as entrepreneurial. I would say it's just very much every person's managing almost their own little business. In that framework, what we found is that middle bucket where there was a top-down structure, but people were still given some freedom, a gentler hand, they were the best performers. Top-down hierarchical was the next best performer, and by far and away the worst performers were those organizations that had much more of a free-flowing structure where there wasn't a lot of top-down guidance or demands, very entrepreneurial. And I thought about this, why might this be? Well, this was an unprecedented time. Salespeople suddenly found themselves working out of their homes, maybe not knowing what to do next, and the top-down structure was one in which they were being provided for some guidance on how they were expected to perform, how they might go out and sell, where they might focus. And I believe that if you're sitting there and you're an entrepreneur and you're in this setting, a lot of people just didn't know where to even begin. And so those entrepreneurial structures really resulted in, I would say on average, a 1.5 times worse performance than people who had the top-down structure. Now, with that said, the hierarchical structures, and again, this is my opinion from what I'm seeing throughout our clients, if it is very demand-oriented, those people selling would do as they were told, but might not feel the freedom to make some experiments. And so that's why I believe those organizations that provided a lot of top-down guidance, but still allow people to take a little liberty, do some things differently, were able to still hold on to some of that ad revenue that was postponed and or canceled. And I think they did it through looking at the various outlets and properties they had and being able to divert some of those dollars. So for example, somebody may have been canceling or postponing some of the TV buy, and we noticed some uptick at least in those clients in their digital spend. So hey, we get that you might not want to buy some TV now, do some branding, but maybe I need to do a call to action type of advertising campaign. Why don't you do some digital ad sales? You don't have to spend what you necessarily would have spent on TV, but let's do a campaign for you here and see if we can get some business going for you. So this is just some of the observations when we look at the data and then try to do some qualitative analysis as to, well, here's what we're seeing in the data, but how does that apply to how these different management teams are managing their sales organizations? So going forward for the rest of 2020, I think it's no secret that we are going to see some political spend. We're going to see a lot of political spend coming out of this. Not only are we seeing buys on the presidential level going into the fall, we're going to see a lot of spend down ballot. The Senate has become very competitive, and competitive in places that we may have not thought 3-6 months ago would have been competitive. Same with the presidential campaign. So part of the good news is if you are a company that sells local, it may not be so localized as it would normally be in 4 or 5 or 6 states, but I think we're going to see a lot of that spend in a lot more places. And political, of course, is gonna help this year. Now, the other component is what are some of the things that we're learning as we're going through this, and how is this alerting people to what's going to happen next? Clearly this year will be okay because political will make up for a lot of the shortfall. Again, not necessarily the banner year, but it has made people become a lot more aware that they need to adapt and change. And we can say this on a lot of components of this industry. So let's start with our bread and butter. And I say our bread and butter today, and our bread and butter today is more traditional. We do have digital, we do have some other exposure, but our bread and butter is traditional. And so when we look at the traditional world, what we're starting to see is a wake-up call. A lot of the broadcasters and traditional companies have been sitting back and saying, we know in the future at some point it's coming, we're going to be selling more impressions. And I don't mean impressions-based selling where you take a rating and you convert it based on some equation. I mean impression selling where you're delivering ads via dynamic ad insertion, you're using ad servers, you're not using traditional spot traffic. Not that spot's going away. Everybody knows that I say spot isn't going away, but spot is going to get a lot smaller. Spot is going to be for certain live events and premium programming where people are going to go ahead and bid up those spots. So, of course, the Super Bowl, things like that. Maybe a Jennifer Lopez concert, I don't know. Or it's going to be things for the March Madness, premium sporting events, other live events, etc. You're not going to have the traditional make goods. Make goods are going to be different. Make goods in impression is going to be like make goods in digital. And make goods in spot is going to be, did you deliver on my spot or not? If I paid for a spot in March Madness in the Final Four, I want to be at least in the Final Four. Maybe you can switch, okay, maybe I'm not in this game or that game, maybe, but I'm not going to be on the 12, the midnight movie hosted by Elvira. I'm not interested in that. So that kind of make good will disappear. Now, that underlying technological infrastructure is somewhat there, but where it's not there is in the sales organization, the workflow. It's not there in the execution components of getting that ad prepared, and it's not fully there on how to be able to even deliver these ads in those frameworks, but it's coming. And that technology doesn't happen overnight. And so when we talk here at Matrix about automating the sales workflow and doing it in a way where it's being converged across all the different inventories, whether it's digital, whether it's linear live, whether it's OT, whatever it is, on demand, these workflows are going to have to be automated. That technology takes some time. And to date, a lot of traditional media companies have been sitting on the sidelines saying, well, show us what you have, you develop it, we may or may not buy it, etc. And we know that's not fully going to win the day. And in fact, I was part of a panel on a webinar, and one of the topics brought up was about video. And I'm not going to say video's technology was perfect. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, right? But what I will say is they invested a ton of money to build out that system. Some people used it a little bit, but there was never a full commitment. And so now technology companies, a lot of them are going to be hesitant on really investing millions and millions of dollars if they're not getting any partnership or commitment. Now, I will tell you from our standpoint, we're working on it. We're building it. We have some parts of it are in vision, some parts of it are planned, some are in planning, and some have been developed and are in beta and are being tested, and some are already being used in some of our clients. So we're moving there. And so over the next couple of years, we will build an automated converged workflow system. And it's really not just, it's not programmatic. This is really about taking and helping and empowering the sales organization and the salespeople to be able to sell. It's about taking all those other components and making it automated. And it's not just about their work. I think a lot of times when I talk to other tech companies, they think about it as like, oh, we just want to help the salesperson do this or that. We want to do that, but at the same time, we always think about that. How can we build a system that not only takes the double and triple entry out, makes things faster, gets rid of the errors, helps optimize, but how do we also develop a system that provides actionable analytics to the managers and to the C-level people so that they have real insight into their organization so they can actively make decisions that let that organization perform better. And so, but what we would say in the traditional world is, and what we're starting to see is, you've got to get off the sidelines and you got to start saying to some of these companies, we're going to be your partner and we're going to work with you, and there's going to be some real development. And I would encourage those companies to do so, because if they don't, they're going to need these systems, and the one or two that end up getting developed, if you weren't part of that process, they're going to be very expensive for you to buy. It's just the fact of the matter. We saw it in digital. Technology invented digital publishing. And guess who makes the biggest profit? Technology. And if technology is the one investing in building this new form without your input and active involvement, they're the ones who are going to look to make some real profit. I would encourage everybody to think about that and to start saying, yeah, we know where you want to go and we want those partners. Now, in the digital landscape, it's very interesting for me, because I think a lot of what we know is there's a few players that dominate this market: Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Alibaba, but of course not in the United States or anywhere outside of China. But those other companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, it's coming. These are media companies, and they can pretend they're technology companies all they want. At a certain point, regulation is coming. And I find it quite interesting, because whether Democrats are in power or Republicans are in power, there's that growing sense that something needs to be changed here. They own, 91% of all digital advertising? And they control it in a way that's very monopolistic and very predatory. And so I don't view their behavior changing, and as that doesn't change, there is going to be this need to regulate and really break some of that up. And I think this is actually a great opportunity for the digital publishers out there that aren't them. Start preparing, because you may find that there's going to be an opportunity for you. And we can talk about paywalls and all those things, and that is a good way to make some money, but advertising can be a great way to really take advantage. And I think that as we move further and as consumers start going other places, there's going to be more opportunity there to take advantage. So, as a final wrap up, why don't I take you through a few of the things that we're working on and where we're headed the rest of the year and into 2021. Before I do that, I do want to make sure that I clarify, because I did say earlier that traditional media companies should start picking some of their partners and working with them. And we certainly have had some great partners in the developments we've been doing. And I want to make sure, if they're watching, that they understand we are incredibly appreciative of this partnership, because not only does it allow us to develop something better, it does allow us to develop something better for the industry and for you that's practical, usable, etc. So, and in that vein, we have developed recently a workflow for national sellers. And this is really a flow that is designed that the national seller doesn't have to do anything else, that they just do what they've been doing. We bring in data from other places, we automate the forecasting, we automate the projections, we bring in the share. That share can recalculate so that the projections can change over the quarter, over the year. And so this brings actionable analytics information to the AE, it brings it to their manager, and of course, as always through our product, that rolls up to the C-suite so they understand their business. Now, of course, they can use other functionality in the product if they choose, but it's really designed for that vision of automating that workflow so that the salesperson can concentrate on selling. Now, this workflow is one that is very applicable to the networks, and we're taking this workflow and then adding some additional enhancements to make it that much more compelling for networks. And we're working with some key partners as we look to provide additional functionality that makes our product that much better for how they sell, which of course is significantly different than a local seller. Local seller has one means, a national seller different, and of course a network, it's going to be different there. And so we're very excited for that progression. Now, other areas that we are working on, if you've heard these before, you know that we have developed a buy-side aggregation platform. Again, this is about automating those processes. This platform is designed that any buy-side aggregator that's out there, whether it's the Hudson, the Freewheel Strata, whether it's ProVantage, Media Ocean, that information, whatever APIs they have, can be brought into our system. The correct salespeople can be alerted, hey, you have an RFP, take a look at what this demand is. This demand can be automated into the proposal system so that, again, forecasting projections are all automated. So this is part of what we've been working on in the flow of those processes. And then finally, we are doing some work and additional planning to enhance the digital experience of our product. We, of course, today have digital sellers in the product, and we do hook into your Google Ad Manager and can bring in live campaign data, but this is going to be a much more robust workflow. It's going to have a lot of more automation into the process, from the salesperson through your order management system, ad server, your ad ops folks, and your creative, really making it a much more seamless process so that, again, we're getting rid of a lot of those mechanical hurdles so that people can do their jobs. We appreciate our clients and thank you for your business. Everyone else who's not a client, we would love your business, so let us know. And otherwise, thank you. Have a great third quarter, and we'll see you soon.